Right. Hey, everybody. Good morning. This is Jen and Cindy. Oh my gosh. Okay, Jen. I'm talking myself in third person now. Cindy and I actually have been having
Oh
quite a
my God.
conversation. I think we started this conversation around 10 a.m.
10.
ish, and it is 11:24. And so we've just had an incredible conversation, really. And we're kind of disappointed with ourselves that we didn't record it, but it's because it ended up going a different direction than what we had anticipated today to do. So we had initially started out planning to talk about intuition today.
Yes.
But what our intuition quickly told us was that that was not the topic of today. So funny enough, um, we get on Zoom as we normally do, and we were going to record, but usually we chat for a few minutes first, which I'm really glad that we do that because it sort of allows us to feel each other's energy and, see where we're at, because I truly believe that it is super important to be in a good space when you are
Yes.
sharing, right?
Definitely.
Particularly from a coaching standpoint or mentoring standpoint or anything like that, really important that we have ourselves together. Anyway, so what happened was, and Cindy, you can speak to this in a second, and just so Cindy gets on and something was just off. I could feel her energy was a little bit off. And Cindy, you share a little bit of what was kind of going on for you that sort of started us on a totally different conversation.
Yeah. Well, my energy, first of all, in the last week, I haven't been feeling well. So your energy is kind of off there too. But my energy today was just bouncing all over the place. I could not, I'm a big grounder.
Yeah.
Um, so like I did my grounding, I did all that stuff. Well, it just didn't seem to work
It
today.
wasn't sticking today for
It
some
wasn't
reason. Yeah.
working.
Because I was feeling it too. I was feeling like, and it's funny, I don't know, like for our audience, have you ever felt that way or felt somebody else's presence where they're just like bouncing around either in, it's topics or conversations or just their energy feels like it's sort of jumping all around? Because you didn't feel grounded to me. And it's funny because you were like, you had been out in the woods, you went for, took your
Ah,
dog for a walk, things like, so you've done the things that normally would ground you, but
yes,
something else had you off, which is okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And uh, and I've been really paying attention to authenticity and integrity
Yeah.
lately. So I want to be able to voice whatever I say,
Mhm.
whatever I'm thinking, without in a respectful way,
Yeah.
without like putting anybody on the defensive, anything like that. So I'm just going to be truthful here.
Yeah. Might as
So
well.
I'm fine. I've been getting too much in my head lately and letting my ego take my thoughts, and my ego like kind of telling me what to do and what not to do. And I'm going to use my art as a example. I won't go into everything that we talked about this morning, but this will bring up most
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So I haven't been feeling um or I'm hmm I haven't been feeling creative, or I haven't been feeling authentic in my art lately. I feel like I'm trying to reproduce other people's art, or I'm trying to find my niche, or I'm trying to find what I'm good at,
Mm-hmm.
instead of listening to my body, because your
Mm-hmm.
body will tell you all what you need to know.
Yeah.
When I finish a piece that I'm in love with, or like, and so I'm trying to not use that word try. I'm I'm working on being softer and kinder, and trying to figure out, or not figure out, but knowing that I am a creative, I am an artist, But I also get satisfaction and grateful feelings when I finish a piece, not just a painting, but if I finish a sketch, or if I'm repurposing something, like I can see the end stage of something when I'm repurposing something, and I know it looks awesome, and so I'm thinking, okay, so maybe I already know my purpose. Maybe I already am an artist, but yet again, my ego was telling me that, well, you're not an artist until you sell a piece in the art gallery, or you're not an art, you
Yeah,
have all these things coming. But I'm thinking, I really don't have to do anything for anybody else but myself.
exactly.
And I am grateful for being a creative. So I was bouncing all over the place because I was sharing with you, Jennifer. I don't know if this is what I want to do.
Right.
I don't know if, like, there's been too many things that have, and then so we talked through it.
Mhm.
And
And if,
like,
and I want to say to the people listening, if you can imagine like a bright light bouncing around the room and all of a sudden it gracefully sat down in the chair and now we're having a conversation. This is what happened in our conversation, because that's what it felt like. Your energy was like all over the place, and all of a sudden you were like right centered. And we're like, okay,
yes,
now we should record. I'm like, oh, we should have recorded earlier,
because
because it would have been
be,
amazing for everybody else to have seen that. But again, these private conversations, right? Some details are not
yes.
necessarily for everybody. Um,
And
and
just,
life
I guess
happens.
what I'm my main thing that I want to get out there
Yep.
is I needed to use my voice,
So
and I
tell them
needed
about
to
your throat
feel,
chakra. And not everybody
yeah,
might know. We don't necessarily, you don't need to know what chakras are necessarily.
um,
Just know
or
that it's the way that energy flows through your body, right? Whether or not you're
yes.
open or you have blockages. And sometimes we
Eh,
know we have, we know
well,
we have a blockage, but we don't know the language for it. But you knew.
and I knew that my solar plexus was blocked this morning.
Yeah.
And the thing is, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oh, shouldn't have. Maybe I could have picked a better time to check my solar plexus and my throat chakra, but both were blocked. And I know that sounds hokey dokey, but Jennifer and I are into Reiki, and the
Yeah.
energy just flows awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then I got off on looking up information on, well, what does it mean if your solar plexus is, like,
Block.
and so that has to do with self-esteem, and it has to do with making difficult decisions, like all that kind of stuff, having some anger issues, and the throat chakra, well,
That's just
that's
speaking your truth.
just speaking your truth.
Right. Which
And
oftentimes, if we're feeling insecure or whatever, speaking our truth becomes even more challenging. But all the more reason why having a trusted relationship, because I
mm,
appreciate, Cindy, how you said, that you felt safe talking to me about this. And again, right, in a one-on-one sort of situation where like it really helped gain some clarity around where
yes,
things were at. When you're flitting around like that and you're not grounded, you're really not grounded, right? When we're in that space, we shouldn't make decisions.
no,
I do want people to understand that, but I think oftentimes we are very reactive because we're feeling a feeling and we think that feeling is telling us to do something. That's not necessarily true, but it is getting better, getting better at discerning where's it coming from. When it's coming from head and ego and that kind of stuff, no, or fear, that's not necessarily where yes, okay. If you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, get to safety. Other than that, right, a lot of it's just thoughts. And when our bodies don't know the difference. And I think that from our last conversation, we shared the recording, and Cindy, you shared a little bit about your previous career and things like
yes,
that. But also in your life, we all have what we call small t and big T traumas in our life, right? And you worked in an environment for 30 years or maybe 30 plus, whatever, years in a very traumatic environment where you had to become very hyper vigilant and you don't realize how we entrench our bodies in that reactivity. And it takes time to sort of break up with that, right? And
Yeah.
so when we get
Yes.
hijacked or triggered or whatever, we can quickly make some assumptions, but you're not in that environment right now. And there's nothing to fear, right? So creating a safe space, talking it through, and certainly, like you say, speaking your truth
Just
allowed
speaking.
the opportunity to clear the air and you to become more centered, which is certainly where, if we have an opportunity to make choices, to make them from being grounded and centered, you'll always make a better choice.
Yes. Could you imagine us going on at the first of the conversation? No.
I think the recording would have been great, but for
So
totally
it would
different
have been, it
reasons.
would have been entertaining for people, but
Yeah,
maybe not for me.
yeah,
But I appreciate, and I guess I want to put this out there too. When you have somebody that you can share things with, that are that you feel safe with, because I
yeah.
have a, like I have a few friends, Jennifer, you being one, that I can do that with.
Mhm.
But it's, people think, oh well, I have 10 good friends. I think that I think people probably only have one, two, maybe three people that they can actually be, know that they're going to be respected and listened to and
Yeah,
not judged by.
exactly. Yep.
So that's a really big thing
It's
to think
huge.
about,
It's
because
huge. To be
yes, because
honest, to be able to
when
be
you
honest and
yeah,
not to know you don't have to be on guard to protect someone else's feelings, right?
yes,
Because until you get it out of you, you can't even refine what it is you really want to say, right? Because
that's
like
right.
it starts out and we're not even saying the right things until we get into it, right? That you actually like, no, this is exactly what I needed to talk about, right? It starts out typically we
And
talk about symptoms before
yes,
we get to the cause. Yeah,
even when we were addressing it this morning, I was coming a roundabout way, and then I thought, this is just crazy. I'm just going to come right out.
yeah,
And because if you don't get it out of get it out, you're hurting yourself. Like,
only
you
you.
just get down on yourself, like, "Well, why didn't I say that? I don't understand why I didn't say that." Like,
And we
but
hold
there's a
ourselves back
respectful, yes. Then
because
there's
we'll make choices that might take us down a completely wrong path for us, right? And we talked about something that I thought was really interesting because you had made a statement, if you don't mind me sharing that, that you were trying to be authentic, right? That you
yes,
really want to be authentic. And I'm like, and I get it because I think that is a really, really important topic. And it's a hot word today, right? Because everybody wants authentic, authentic. You see it everywhere, right? And it's true. But authenticity is our birthright, right? We don't have to try to be authentic. We have to work towards um, gaining
integrity.
more integrity in our lives. Exactly. So this is what we kind of talked about in the fact that integrity is what you think, what you say, and what you do are aligned.
Yes,
And so when we are saying we're trying to be more authentic, what we're really saying is I am working on being more integral, right? In my life. I'm trying to honor myself more and show up as my whole self without worrying about what you think or doing something because somebody says I should do this, or you know what I mean? Like really honoring yourself.
hmm,
Um, trying, and funny, I used the example with Cindy, but I remember hearing this in a business training.
oh,
You know,
this
can
resonated with
you
me today, though. That was precious. That was an aha moment.
good.
It's
I'm
not
glad.
something
And
that
it's
I'm
such a silly little thing, but it gives you
yeah,
something to think about, right? Like analogies. I love those because sometimes it really they can remind you really quickly of how to get back on track. But can you try to eat an orange or do you just eat an orange, right? I mean, we don't try to do things. And I love, there's a great quote, and I won't do it justice, even though I typically do. I love quotes. But something to the effect of you don't you don't become more loving. We need to, because you are love, we're pure love, that's our birthright as well, right? So you don't try to become more loving. We actually have to get rid of, right, or let go of all the barriers that stand between you and love. Authenticity is the same thing. So that's where integrity comes in, right? That all of the barriers to being authentic need to be addressed. And that's what we bump into every
Yes.
day in our lives.
Yeah.
Right? That when you actually, you're thinking something, but you're not saying that truth. Right? Or like you say, you're trying to beat around the bush, but then you never really get there. And you're like, fuck, just say it. Excuse my language, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
Right? Like, anyway, I thought it was a good little aha, because I think that that's a clarifying point for a lot of people too, because you would not be the only person who has said, I want to be more authentic, or I want to try to be more authentic, or, and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's not. This is where when you hear Cindy saying things like, oh, I've just shooted myself, or, whatever,
Yes, the
I'm
words.
huge on language,
Yeah. And it's
because
true.
language tells the truth. We will use words that are really great indicators of telling the world where we're at. And it's why, it's another reason why it's so important to, shore up our foundation and match our language, because that's part of integrity,
Mm-hmm.
right? But do we challenge ourselves, right? Because we think it, so we think it's true, but that's not necessarily true, right?
And yes, and it's like, well, most of the stuff that we talked about this morning was things that, of course, we know,
Yes.
I know, but sometimes when you're in the situation, you
Mhm.
don't look at it as, like it's easier to be outside of the situation looking in, to
Yeah,
be able to advise, to be able to like just offer some support.
absolutely.
So that's the other thing about it's very important to have somebody that you can bounce things off of.
Yeah.
Um,
And and I would go back again, not necessarily all friends are equipped, right? Because
no,
again, you're either going to have a conversation that's going to move you forward,
that's right.
because the shift in your energy this morning was like day and night, and you could have stayed in that space had you talked to just a friend who doesn't necessarily have any ability to shine any new light on it. You
Mm-hmm.
probably would have been validated of like, you feel crappy, yep, you feel crappy, and then you go on and you continue to feel crappy and flitting around wondering what the heck, right? And we can stay in that confused, sort of chaotic state for a while. Sometimes, you have a shower can help wash off that negativity, or you sleep and you wake up and it's like, oh, feel, refreshed or whatever. But generally speaking, right, we can stay in that state for quite a long time. It is
Mm-hmm.
really helpful. And this is why, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for mentoring or coaching, or something where you have a safe space. The person is not necessarily in your life every day, where you're not like, oh gosh, they know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
it's a
yes.
professional relationship where, you don't see somebody at the grocery store and it's like, oh, they telling somebody my stuff, or, sometimes you don't want your friends to know all your bits and pieces. I know for myself, I tend to have to think my way to some degree, not just mind, but like there's a lot of thinking on my way there. And I will touch a lot of surfaces. And let's just say the first 10 things I think about aren't even what it is. But if I shared from that space with a friend, they might think, oh my gosh, she's a crazy person. Right? Because I touch a lot of surfaces before
Yeah.
I end up
Yeah.
getting where it is I need to be with certain things, right? I mean, some things are easier to work through and some things are a little more
So,
challenging.
and we also talked about getting in your head too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is something that I'm more aware of.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
again, working in a traumatic environment,
yeah,
right? When you have to be hyper vigilant because of safety, because anything can go off the rails at any minute, right?
totally
And
different.
oftentimes
Yes.
does, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have that knee jerk reaction. It's like it's entrenched. It's, you have super highways built in your brain to protect you. And so to think that you're not going to have to work your way through those to get to a place where that's not your knee jerk anymore.
Yes,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
So we talked about gratitude, grounding,
Yes.
grounding in gratitude. Oftentimes people wonder, well, how can I don't know, we get a little hijacked in our life or whatever. And how do I become more aware? How do I put that top of mind all the time? And I talked about a gratitude practice where, you start recognizing when you are in flow, recognizing when you are in that
Yeah.
state where you're appreciating your art and you're like thrilled. You may have to journal or do audio or something where you're like really pull it out of you and
You
practice being grateful for that.
yeah, you can get the feeling. I can
You
get the
can.
feeling
Yes.
because I will do this a lot.
Mhm.
If I think about my granddaughters, the feeling
Yes.
is right from my toes right
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So when you practice gratitude on a regular basis, and that being, say, the practice, if you want to ground in, thinking about your granddaughters and your love for them and your gratitude and all of that kind of stuff, then you start to get in your head into your body and feel
Y-
where you feel it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then as you practice, 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 you will start to recognize, oh, I'm out of my body and I'm now in my head. And that's how you start to recognize,
Yeah.
where am I, right? In what state am I at? Am I able to make decisions from this space? Gratitude really is an incredible practice. And I think a lot of people think that they're practicing it, but I don't know. They're thinking of a couple things they're grateful for, but they're not using it as a grounding practice.
Well, and
Do you know
there's
what I mean?
so many ways to practice that, like
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah.
You just need to you just need to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about falling off the wagon, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
a huge
used to have
advocate for it. Like it,
I
because it's
used to
it's an
have a
important part of it,
yes.
of our
So I used
journey.
to have a gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Those are really I find those really helpful. Nothing goes in there but things that I'm grateful for, and
And then how
and
do you use that journal, Cindy? Other than just putting into that journal, how do you use it any other way?
well, I use it to feel the feelings
Okay.
because
And so how do you do
when
that
I think about what I'm writing
when you're writing? Okay.
when
Do
I'm
you use
writing.
it any other way?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes if I'm having a down day or whatever,
Yeah.
I'll pick it up and just look through
Yes.
and oh, right,
Yeah.
right,
So
right.
that's the practice. So when I think about a gratitude journal, and it's true, right? I mean, obviously, you're thinking about what am I grateful for and writing it down. In a sense, I think about it that as giving.
Yes,
But we need to practice receiving, particularly as women
yes,
as well. So using that book as an opportunity to receive when you need to receive, that can be something you open up and read and allow yourself, oh yeah, to remember. So that
yes,
that can be, this is where we take the normal little things that we say, oh yeah, I do that, but make a practice,
yeah.
right? Because
And
again,
this
making
morning,
it top of mind helps you stay on track or get back on track faster.
and this morning, if we weren't um zooming,
Yeah.
and say if you just weren't available or
Mhm.
somebody else, I mean, that is a way
Yes.
to help ground you also is to look back at
Yes.
your journal like,
Yep.
okay, oh right, I put this, I put that. I
Yeah.
mean, it just it just brings you into the now,
Yes.
and it kind of balances you. It balances everything.
Yeah. Gratitude is like
Yeah.
gratitude is love on steroids in a sense, right? Like, I mean, it's appreciation. And it's something that, it's funny. I've heard so many people say over the years, because again, I've done a lot of this within business coaching and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, I practice gratitude in my head,
Mm-mm.
but that tool's not there for you when you need it. Right. So that's great that it's there for you to do when you're feeling good. The whole purpose is actually to create tools that are there for you when you're not feeling good. So,
And
right. So
there's all
having something
kinds
to
of
support you. Yeah.
tools. I mean, my goodness, there's all kinds of apps. Like I do a journaling app. Can't remember what it's called.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me about that. I haven't,
Yeah.
I've checked, I've put it on my
Day
phone, but
one.
I
It's
have not looked at it too
it's
much.
called Day One,
Yeah.
and it's an awesome one
Mm.
because it has prompt questions.
Yeah. That's
So
nice.
even though you sit down and you think, I don't have anything to write today, there's a question that they ask you, and then from there, I mean, I have typed like pages just from one question, because from that question it brings up this question and that question, and
Yep.
you're starting to it's awesome. I really
Yeah.
like it. and
Yeah.
it's on your phone.
Yeah. It's
So
with
you
you.
can,
It's with you. So there's no
yeah.
real excuse. And I know I do a lot of journaling on my phone as well. I love, like, even with, like, I've got an iPhone, the Notes app. Now I have purchased apps,
Yes.
but that Note app now has expanded the way that you can use that as well, right? I mean, you can put hyperlinks in there, you can put pictures in there now, you can do a lot of things. You can pin it for, like, to find things faster and easier, and folders. And anyway, great way to journal. However, I do want to just say that there is something to be said about pen to paper,
Yes.
and it has to do with your neurology, right? Pen to paper is better for reprogramming your mind.
I'm going to
So
use art. I'm going to use art for that too, because
yes,
when you're doing a
yes,
repetitive motion,
yes.
it gets to the point where your hand automatically can do that.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's almost like that. You're putting pen to
Yes.
paper.
Yep. So, and there's something to be said about it. And certainly
Mm.
there's lots of studies actually done on blue ink, I think, on white paper or whatever. And, some people don't thrive on white paper. I mean, I know when I took massage therapy, there was a girl there was somebody who did some, I don't know, some study or whatever. And she had to use, I think she had ADHD, and I don't know, maybe had some other things going on, some learning. She found learning very challenging. And what she learned is she needed to have purple ink on purple paper and a purple highlighter. And she did so much better. And I said, funny, like, again, these are resources that we don't even know are available to us, right? And whether or not
My,
you can make those
mine is
accommodations, but
mine is blue ink. I
there you
prefer
go.
blue ink to
Yeah,
black.
I know. Isn't it funny?
But yet I like the micro pens, which are
Yeah.
black for art. But
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's,
So
I mean, at the end of the day, you want to, I'm not a big advocate for the words, hacks and, like, whatever, like finding those shortcuts. But at the end of the day, if you're going to use a tool and you want to, if you're going to commit to using it, it's really nice to focus on and hone in on some of the things that really work, right? I mean, obviously that it's proven that there's,
but
uh,
you still have to do you.
oh yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. There's definitely creativity in that. But at the end of the day, I can say that when I learned about writing, that is powerful. I make sure that I do some of that. Doesn't mean I have to do all of it, right? But I do
Yeah.
some of that for sure.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we build beliefs by what we hear the most. So that's a
Yes.
trick that you can do as well. So, the audio recordings and stuff like that, like you can choose to, you know, plant seeds, practice your gratitude, and then listen to it over and over and over again. And you'd be surprised how over time it locks in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Remember
you
we
got to
did that.
practice until it does, but it
Remember
does a
we
great
did
job.
the affirmations,
Oh
audio
yeah.
affirmations for ourselves.
Yep.
It's funny how you start new things and then you kind of fall off and then you think, oh, wait a minute, that worked.
Yeah.
And then you go back to it.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's part of that I find the value of falling off the wagon.
Yeah.
With clean eating or with anything. It isn't about being rigid to anything, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, to have some balance is to be able to honor that flow and that freedom of not necessarily having to have any particular rigid whatever, but you fall off the wagon. And then, when you have that mind, like, oh, you're reminded of why it was important to begin with.
Love
And
yourself through it.
don't we tend to take things for granted and sort of lose perspective? And we need to be reminded of what really matters. And the more you fall off the wagon, the more opportunities you have to be reminded. And eventually some things stick. Not everything's supposed to stick all the time. Not right then, right? I mean, we're a work in progress from start to finish. So, and I'm still here. So I guess there's still more to go.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. I guess that's kind of what we wanted to bring. I mean, listen, there's so much
It's
more we could
totally
share
off.
about the
Totally.
conversation. But
It's funny how we picked one topic and 2 weeks in a row, it didn't resonate with both of us. So
yeah.
we picked.
But see, we're not this kind. It's funny.
Yeah.
This is not kind of who we, or not who I am, typically. I think I have done that because from a business standpoint, typically
Yes.
there's, there's things you want to do and you want to stay on task, but I am more of a go with flow kind of gal. And we tend to, our conversations have been so fantastic because when we start talking, we talk about whatever we're supposed to talk about. And it's not a planned topic. And that's usually where we thrive the best. And I hope people can really appreciate it. Doesn't mean we can't stay on task. We can.
Oh, yeah.
We can.
But we're feeling out our niche too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like
sure.
it's, yeah, winging it is probably our forte.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's some appreciation for that because I mean a lot of the energy in society, right, is to be logical and what a productive and everything's got to be certain, but feminine is typically a little more chaotic and wild and creative and all over the place, but that there's groundedness in that too.
Mm-hmm.
If you've grounded your energy, otherwise we can look like we're flitting around just like everybody else, right? I mean, as we tend to have a lot of ideas or I mean, that's just, so if it's not grounded it can kind of be chaotic. You'll know when you're talking to somebody like that, or you'll know if you are being that
Yes.
because it happens to all of us from time to time. But anyway, yeah. So I think we'll sign off.
Yeah.
Sound good? Anything else you want to add, Cindy, before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think we I don't know how many topics we covered, but we
You know
covered
what?
journaling
I
and we
hope
covered,
somebody finds some value in what we shared today. Because you
yeah.
know what? I think we all have these moments, right? Moments, and sometimes more than just moments, right? I mean, it could be a week,
And we
could be a day,
appreciate
could be a week, could be a year, whatever.
we appreciate questions and comments and that's
Yes. Well, share with us, like, have you ever felt this energy? Have you ever been all over the place and like tried to figure out how do I come down? Or have you ever had a child in your home that's like losing it and hoping to figure out how do I get these young people grounded or whatever so we can have a conversation?
Mm.
Hopefully something in here will help support you on that journey as well. So
Mhm.
anyway, all right. Well, have a great day, you guys, and share
Have a
your
great
thoughts.
week.
You take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.